Welcome back to the channel, everyone. We are back here on a Wednesday. It is October 14th, the official release day of the women's Air Jordan 1 Lucky Green. I just got back from Foot Locker picking up my pair right here that I reserved via the reservation process on the app. Really glad to pick these up. However, I am a little disappointed. I will say these do not look as good in hand as I had hoped. That's a change for this channel. I feel like everything I kind of talk about usually gets a good sentiment, and while this is still a good shoe, don't get me wrong, it just doesn't quite look like the pictures, and I don't think I like it as much. So I want to share my thoughts with you guys, let you guys take a look at the shoe, get a look at it on feet as well, and give you guys my thoughts and opinions. So be sure to hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with all of my release day reviews here on the channel. But for now, let's go and get further into the review on the Air Jordan 1 Lucky Green, starting with the quick facts. So when talking about the women's Air Jordan 1 Lucky Green, here is what you need to know. Obviously, it is a women's sneaker, as I've been mentioning, so this sneaker does come in women's sizing 5 to 12, which does convert over to men's sizing. However, it only converts up to a men's size 10.5, so keep that in mind. The size difference is a 1.5 size difference, so the women's 12 here converts down to a men's 10.5. Keep that in mind. In terms of sizing, this shoe does fit true to size. If anything, you could go down a half size for a little bit more of a snug fit. I typically like to do that on my ones, but otherwise I do recommend going true to size. And then in terms of comfort, it is definitely a solid shoe. It's decent comfort right out of the box and gets more comfortable over time with wear. A shoe you can wear with a lot of things every day, day in and day out. So now let's get into the review. And here we go now with the shoe. So we have the women's Air Jordan 1 Lucky Green in hand for you guys. First off, let's take a look at the box. We see this red Jordan 1 box, similar to the other ones that we've seen. And on the size tag down here, similar to the other women's Jordan 1s we've seen this year, we have women's Air Jordan 1 High OG for that retail price of $170. Again, with the sizing, this is a women's size 10.5, so it does convert down to a size 9 in men's, which is my size here. So onto the sneaker from the lateral side. First thing that I noticed right out of the box, it is a subtle difference, but something I do really like about the shoe before we start talking about the things I'm a little disappointed with is the midsole here. So you can see it's a slightly different shade of white than on the mid panel here. So this is sort of like an off-white cream color that I really like. I think it adds a nice accent to the shoe. But then we have this black outsole, which is below that midsole there. And then for the upper, it is pretty much entirely white and green, a little hit of red for the Wings logo up there, a black swoosh, and then black inner lining. But the part I'm a little disappointed with is the leather on this shoe. So you can see the tumbled leather in the middle for the mid panel. That definitely looks, fine and nice, but the leather on the green, it feels a little stiff, and it just doesn't quite look exactly the same as the shade of green in the pictures that I saw. The stock pictures from Nike, they looked a little bit different, and I was a little disappointed. I don't think these look quite as good in hand, so that's something I definitely wanted to point out to you guys. Moving to the front of the shoes now, we can see the green and white along the toe box. We can see that kind of off-white cream color midsole wrapping around as well. And then on the toe box, you can get a shot of the perforations, a little bit of the leather as we move up to the tongue. The tongue here is black, and then we have a cool patch for the Nike Air on the top. It's in red, but then outlined in white. So that's a cool little change and addition there on the shoe. The last things I want to mention for the lateral sides attached to the sneaker are the hang tag, which comes here. The same leather material as the green on the shoe, but it says Nike Air right there. And then the additional laces on the sneaker are a green set and a red set to go with the black laces that are already in the shoe. Moving on to the medial side now, we can take a look. You can see all the same colors and materials wrapping around. Hopefully you can get another shot of the midsole there to compare it to the mid panel of where you can see the difference in the color of white. A subtle difference, but again, something I really like. The back heel on the shoe now actually changes it up a little bit from what we typically see on Jordan 1s. So aside from the color blocking staying the same and wrapping around, we do have one little change in the middle where we see red and white as a nice piece in the middle. It does give a nice accent to the shoe and a pretty cool touch. And now taking a look overhead, there's a few more differences inside the shoe, which are pretty cool too, that I want to highlight for you guys. I've turned on the flash to get a better shot inside the shoe, but we can see the inner liner is black, behind the tongue is black. There is no patch behind the tongue to go along with the Nike Air on the front, so that is a little bit different of your typical Jordan 1. And then for the insoles, hopefully you guys can see, it's actually like a hardwood pattern for the entire insole, which is really nice. I didn't even realize this was on the shoe, so that was definitely a cool addition. And then you can see the Nike Air that's printed on top is in black with green outlines. So again, a nice little addition. And lastly here, if we get these turned around, we can get a shot of the size tag right there for the numbers and information on the shoe. And lastly, now to round it out, we can take a look at the outsole. Here, it's just all black in the classic design of the Air Jordan 1. And now that is going to wrap up taking an up-close look at the shoe. So it's time to get these laced up, and I'll show you guys what the Lucky Green Jordan 1 looks like on feet. So as we wrap up thinking about this shoe for today, we just took a look at the Lucky Green Air Jordan 1 on feet, and it did look really nice, but I have two main takeaways for you guys. And number one is that this shoe is really just good, but not great in my opinion. It is really a little underwhelming. I was really expecting better. I thought this was gonna be my next beater pair, my next everyday wear. I was really, really excited for this shoe. And the materials just let me down a little bit, and I'm not even like always so crazy on materials. It is what it is. It's a shoe at the end of the day, but I just don't love how it looks in person either. I feel like the pictures looked a lot better than they do in hand, which I don't say often, but feels like it applies on this shoe. That happens a lot with Yeezys. I feel like you can never exactly tell. Jordan always does a good job with it, but on this pair, I don't know, it seemed a little bit different, so it threw me off. But aside from that, it is really nice. So for the second takeaway, I think it's worthwhile to say that Jordan and Nike are going to keep up with the women's Jordan 1 silhouettes. So we've talked about this before. I've reviewed a bunch of the other women's Jordan 1s as well. But it's really cool to see this shoe is really a women's sneaker that is aimed towards women, that does cross over into some men's sizing, my size being included. But as I mentioned earlier in the video, this only does go up to a men's 10.5. So it is really meant to be a women's sneaker, but obviously can be worn by anybody. So it looks like Jordan and Nike are not slowing down with that at all. They keep pumping out more and more colorways, which I think is great. So aside from all that, it is still a solid shoe, just a little underwhelming in my personal opinion, but I would love to know what you guys think in the comments down below. At this point, we have pretty much covered everything. We talked about the sizing, we talked about my thoughts. The last thing here is just my final rating and opinion on a scale out of 10. And for that, I am going to give it an 8 out of 10, so still a very good rating, but just not what I was expecting. I am a little disappointed personally, but it's still a great shoe. You're really not going to be too disappointed. Just keep in mind that the materials are a little bit different than how they appear online. And one other thing to note is that midsole that I mentioned earlier. I do really like that a lot. That's one cool feature that I didn't realize with the pictures, but it is a subtle different shade of white, which I think does add a lot to the shoe. But we have covered everything at this point, so I want to thank you guys one final time for joining me today. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you guys again real soon on the next video.